Hi guys, welcome back to Felix BL Stories channel. I hope you enjoy this new story. The royal decree hit the marble at my feet before anyone heard the little prince say, "That is not my brother's tutor, that is his future queen." For 3 full seconds, the throne room forgot how to breathe. The queen regent froze, with one gloved hand on the arm of her chair. The royal council stared at me, as if I had walked into the palace wearing a crown I had stolen. And Prince Lucien, the reckless alpha heir I had been hired to educate before coronation, looked down at the gold-sealed decree with his chosen consort's name crossed out in a child's furious handwriting. Then he looked at me. His eyes were silver in the torchlight, cold, dangerous, far too steady for a man whose life had just been ruined by an 11-year-old boy with ink on his fingers. I was Finch Albright, Omega tutor, former scholarship student of the Royal Academy, and the least powerful adult in that room. I had been in the palace for only 9 days. 9 days of correcting a prince who skipped treaty lessons. 9 days of pretending his alpha scent did not make every careful thought in my head stumble. 9 days of reminding myself that tutors did not look at princes like Lucien Solmer unless they wanted to be destroyed. The little prince, Milo, pointed at me again. "Finch is the queen," he said, louder this time. "I have seen the gold thread. I have seen it every morning." A courtier gasped. Someone whispered the word bond. Someone else whispered the word fraud. Then the queen regent stood. "Finch Albright," she said, "explain why my son has defaced a coronation decree with your name." My throat closed, because my name was there, not written once, written over and over. Finch Albright, Finch Albright, Finch Albright. Every copy of the decree had originally declared that Prince Lucien would present Lord Adrien Vere as his chosen consort at the coronation rehearsal. Now the little prince had scratched Adrien's name out and written mine in its place, in bright blue Academy ink, on official royal parchment, in front of half the kingdom's highest bloodlines. Before we continue, like and subscribe if you enjoy dramatic BL royal stories with dangerous alphas, vulnerable but stubborn omegas, and court scandals that start with one impossible sentence. This is the YouTube-safe version of Finch and Lucien's story. The full uncut continuation, adult spicy scenes, Lucien's alternate POV, the real ending, and the bonus palace epilogue are on Patreon. I should have knelt. I should have apologized. I should have said I had no idea what the little prince was talking about. Instead, I stared at the decree like it was a blade someone had dropped between my shoes. Because Milo was not lying. That was the problem. Not about me being queen. That sounded impossible. Absurd. Dangerous enough to get me removed from the palace before sunset. But about the thread. Because for the last 9 days, Milo had been following me through corridors, gardens, classrooms, and chapels, whispering the same thing every time his brother turned his back. Gold. 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 I had told myself he was lonely. I had told myself he liked making stories. I had told myself the prince's little brother had chosen me as his latest joke because I was new and easy to frighten. But when Lucien finally bent and lifted the decree from the floor, the room changed. Not because he shouted. He did not. Not because he denied it. He did not do that either. He simply brushed a smear of ink from the parchment, saw my name under his thumb and said, "Who gave Milo this decree?" The chamber went quiet in a different way. Sharper. More frightened. The Queen Regent's expression did not move. "Lucien," she said. He did not look at her. I asked a question. Counselor Harrow, a broad-shouldered alpha with a beard cut like a threat, stepped forward. "Your Highness, surely the relevant question is why an Omega tutor's name appears on a sacred royal document." Lucien's eyes lifted. "No," he said. "The relevant question is why a sacred royal document was within reach of a child." Milo's face went pale. I saw it before anyone else. He had been brave when he spoke, brave when he pointed at me, brave when the court gasped. But now his small fingers twisted in his jacket, and his eyes filled with the sick terror of a child who had realized adults were going to turn his truth into a crime. I moved before I could stop myself. I stepped between Milo and the council. It was a stupid thing to do. An Omega tutor did not stand in front of a royal child. An Omega tutor did not intercept council attention. An Omega tutor did not make himself a shield in a room full of alphas who already thought he had bewitched the heir. But Milo's shoulder brushed my coat, and he hid behind me without thinking. That one movement condemned me. The whispers began. Ambitious, calculated, bond bait, academy trash. Then a voice I knew too well sliced through the chamber like polished glass. "Well," said Caspian Vale, "Finch always did enjoy being noticed." I turned. My former academy rival stood near the doors in a green court coat embroidered with silver ivy. Caspian was 24, beautiful in the way poisonous flowers were beautiful, and smiling like he had waited years to see me bleed in public. At the academy, he had come second to me in every royal history examination, second in political composition, second in linguistic cipher work, second in treaty law. Then, during our final year, my scholarship recommendation vanished. My examination notes were found in his trunk, and somehow, I was the one accused of theft. No one proved it. No one needed to. Caspian had a family name. I had talent. The academy knew which one mattered. Now he bowed to the Queen Regent. "Forgive my interruption, Your Majesty. Lord Adrian asked me to assist with the coronation etiquette schedule. I arrived to find this unfortunate display." Lucien's grip tightened on the decree. "Lord Adrian brought you here." Caspian's smile widened. "As a cultural advisor." "As a parasite," Lucien said. A few courtiers flinched. Caspian's cheeks colored, but he did not bow his head. I should have enjoyed the insult. I did not, because Lucien defending me was worse than Lucien ignoring me. Every word he spoke pulled the scandal tighter around my throat. The Queen Regent descended the dais with perfect control. She wore black silk and moonstone, the mourning colors she had never abandoned after the late king's death. Every step reminded the court that she had ruled the kingdom for 12 years, while her reckless alpha son grew old enough to inherit it. She stopped before me. "Master Albright," she said, "did you, or did you not, instruct Prince Milo to alter the decree?" "No, Your Majesty." "Did you discuss royal bonds with him?" "No." "Did you encourage him to call you queen?" "No." "Did you enter the coronation archive without permission?" "No." "Did you approach Prince Lucien privately?" My mouth went dry, because that answer was not simple. On my second night in the palace, Lucien had appeared outside the schoolroom after midnight, with blood on his knuckles and a treaty book under his arm. He had said he wanted a lesson. He had meant he wanted a fight. I had given him both. On my fifth morning, he had found me in the East Gallery when a group of young nobles cornered me and asked what Omega tutors charged for private persuasion. Lucien had not touched any of them. He had only stood behind me and said their names, one by one, slowly, like he was reading names from a death list. They had never spoken to me again. On the seventh night, during a storm, I had fallen asleep over a stack of coronation charters. I had woken beneath Lucien's cloak, with his scent of cedar smoke and winter rain wrapped around me. So yes, I had approached him privately, and he had approached me, but not like they meant, not like the council wanted to prove. Lucien answered before I could. "He is my tutor," he said. "If Master Albright cannot speak to me privately, I cannot be taught privately. If I cannot be taught privately, perhaps the council should admit they prefer an ignorant king." The Queen Regent turned her eyes on him. "You are not king yet. Then stop treating me like a criminal for learning." A dangerous silence followed. Milo's fingers tightened in the back of my coat. Counselor Harrow looked at the decree, then at me, then at Lucien. "Your Majesty," he said, "until the rehearsal, Master Albright should be removed from the prince's household." "No," Lucien said. The word was soft. The room heard it anyway. Harrow's smile became almost gentle. "You refuse a reasonable precaution." "I refuse theater. You refuse accountability. I refuse handing an Omega over to people who already decided he is guilty." That was when Lord Adrian Vere entered. He was tall, pale-haired, and dressed in ceremonial white. A noble Omega, selected by the council, admired by the court, polished until he looked less like a person and more like a portrait of what a royal consort was supposed to be. He paused at the sight of the decree in Lucien's hand. Then he looked at me, not with hatred. That would have been easier. He looked at me with exhaustion, as if my existence had become another task he had to survive. "My prince," Adrian said quietly. "I came as soon as I heard." Lucien did not move toward him. That was the second scandal. The first was Milo calling me queen. The second was Lucien not comforting the man he was supposed to choose. Adrian noticed. Everyone noticed. Caspian noticed most of all. He stepped close enough for only me to hear him. "You always did have a talent for stealing places you were never born to occupy." I kept my face still. At least I earned my places before someone stole them from me. His eyes sharpened. For 1 second, the academy returned. The long halls. The ink on my fingers. The missing recommendation. The way my whole future collapsed, while Caspian stood beside the headmaster, with tears in his eyes and victory in his scent. Then Lucien's shadow fell over us. Caspian stepped back. Lucien did not look at him. He looked at me. "Master Albright," he said, "you will continue my lessons." The Queen Regent said, "Lucien." He folded the decree once, then again. The gold seal cracked. "My coronation is in 12 days, he said. "If you want me fit for the crown, I keep the tutor who tells me when I am wrong." Then he turned to Milo. "And you," he said. Milo flinched. Lucien crouched until they were eye to eye. His voice changed. It lost the iron edge. It became something private and careful. "You do not touch royal decrees again," he said. Milo swallowed. "I had to." "No, but Finch is." Lucien's jaw tightened. "Milo," the boy's eyes filled. "You never listen when I see things." The Queen Regent went still, not angry, afraid. It passed so quickly I almost missed it. Almost. Lucien did not miss it. He looked at his mother, then at the decree, then at Milo, then finally at me. And that was the moment I understood the scandal was not about a child's prank. It was about a secret the palace had buried so deep that even a defaced decree could make a Queen Regent afraid. The next morning, my classroom smelled like fresh wax, dusted velvet, and restrained alpha temper. Lucien arrived 6 minutes late, with a bruise on his jaw and 3 books under one arm. I marked the time on the attendance ledger. He looked at the page. "You are recording my lateness." "Yes. After yesterday, you still care about 6 minutes. Especially after yesterday." His mouth twitched. It was not quite a smile. Lucien Solmer did not smile often. He smirked, threatened, and stared at people until they apologized for breathing. But a real smile seemed to confuse his face, as if tenderness were a language his features had never been taught. He dropped into the chair across from me. The schoolroom had once belonged to the late king's younger sisters. There were faded star maps on the ceiling, tall windows overlooking the inner gardens, and a hearth that smoked badly when it rained. It was too intimate for a prince and an Omega tutor. Every object seemed designed to betray silence. The scratch of my pen, the shift of his boots, the slow breath he took when I leaned over the table to correct his translation. I tapped the first line of his treaty exercise. "Wrong?" He leaned back. Good morning to you too. This clause does not mean the northern houses may refuse tax levies during wartime. It means they may request delayed payment if crop yield falls below the winter threshold. Riveting. You mistranslated one word and almost gave 3 provinces permission to bankrupt the crown. That sounds like their problem. That is exactly why your mother hired me. His eyes lifted. For a moment, the reckless prince vanished. In his place sat a man who knew exactly how many people thought he would fail. You think I am reckless. I think you have cultivated recklessness so nobody asks whether you are afraid. The room went quiet. Lucien's fingers stopped drumming on the table. Outside, gardeners trimmed frost lilies along the path. Inside, I realized I had spoken to the future king like he was still a bruised boy hiding behind scandal. I lowered my gaze. Forgive me, Your Highness. No. I looked up. He was watching me with an expression I could not read. Do not apologize for being accurate. My pulse betrayed me. It jumped hard enough that I saw his eyes flick briefly to my throat. That was the curse of alphas and omegas in close rooms. Biology made liars of us all. I wore a suppressant patch beneath my collar, government approved and academy issued. It kept my scent muted, my cycle predictable, and most of my dignity intact. But Lucien had a presence that made the patch feel like paper against a storm. Not because he pushed. He did not. That was worse. Cruel alphas were easy to hate. Careless alphas were easy to avoid. Lucien's restraint made him impossible. He would lean back when I leaned forward, open windows when the air warmed, turn his face away when my breath caught. He behaved like someone holding a blade by the edge because he would rather bleed than cut me. Continue, he said. So I did. For 2 hours, I taught him succession law, diplomatic cipher, and the correct historical order of the 5 border rebellions. For 2 hours, he pretended to hate it. For 2 hours, he answered every question correctly after the first mistake. Then, as I gathered the papers, he placed the folded royal decree on the table. My name was still visible through the cracked gold seal. Finch Albright, repeated in Milo's uneven hand. My stomach tightened. Why do you have that? Because Harrow wanted it burned. And you disagreed. I disagree with most things Harrow wants. That does not explain why it is here. Lucien unfolded the parchment. The original ink named Lord Adrian as chosen consort. Milo's blue ink covered it like a childish rebellion. Lucien's thumb rested near my name. Milo has not drawn on a royal document since he was 5, he said. What did he draw then? A dragon eating the tax code. Despite myself, I laughed. Lucien looked at me as if the sound had startled him. Then his gaze softened, and I wished I had stayed silent. He only defaces things when he is frightened, Lucien said. I touched the edge of the decree. Frightened of what? That is what I want you to find out. Me? You are the only person he keeps talking to. He is a child. He follows anyone who listens. No, he avoids everyone who listens too carefully. That was too precise. Too sad. I thought of Milo hiding behind me. I thought of the Queen Regent's fear. I thought of the way the court whispered bond, like it was a disease. What does he see? I asked. Lucien's face closed. I do not know. You do. His eyes sharpened. You accuse princes easily, Master Albright. I teach them honestly. He stood. For a second, the room seemed smaller. His scent shifted. Cedar smoke. Winter rain. Something darker beneath. Not anger exactly. Memory. When Milo was 7, Lucien said, he told my father not to ride south. He said there was red glass on the road. I stopped breathing. The late king had died 4 days later, when his carriage overturned on the southern pass. The official report blamed ice. Everyone in the kingdom knew that. Everyone also knew the road had been dry. Lucien looked out the window. After the funeral, My mother ordered Milo's visions never to be discussed. She said grief made children strange. And you believe that. I believed what I had to believe. What changed? He looked back at the decree. My brother has been calling you queen for weeks. Weeks. The word struck harder than I expected. But I arrived 9 days ago. Yes. The classroom chilled. Lucien watched the realization move across my face. Milo had been saying it before he met me, before I walked through the palace gates, before the Queen Regent handed me my contract, before Lucien ever heard my name. I stepped back from the table. No. Lucien's mouth tightened. That was my reaction too. Why hire me then? I did not. Your mother did. Yes. My mind raced through every meeting, every signature, every official explanation. The palace letter had said my academic specialty made me suitable. The Queen Regent had said Lucien required someone brilliant enough to challenge him and obscure enough not to flatter him. I had believed that because I wanted to. Because a ruined Omega tutor did not question miracles when they came stamped with royal wax. Lucien said, there were 12 candidates. My voice came out thin. And she chose me. Yes. Because Milo had already seen me. I think so. The door opened before I could answer. A maid entered with a tea tray. She was young, maybe 20, with dark hair pinned beneath a linen cap, and eyes that moved too fast before she lowered them. I recognized her. Mara. She had brought fresh linens to my room twice. She had also been in the west corridor the night Lucien gave me his cloak. At the time, I thought she was embarrassed to interrupt. Now I noticed her hands. They were steady. Too steady for a maid walking into a tense room with an alpha prince and an Omega tutor. Tea, Your Highness, she said. Lucien did not look away from me. Leave it. Mara set the tray down. As she turned, her sleeve caught the corner of the decree. A drop of tea fell across Milo's blue ink. The ink did not run, but the original black lettering beneath it blurred. I stared. Lucien saw it too. He caught Mara's wrist before she reached the door. He did not hurt her. He simply stopped her. Where did this tea come from? Her face emptied. The lower kitchens, Your Highness. Who sent you? The steward. Which steward? She swallowed. I noticed then that the tea smelled wrong. Bitter almond under bergamot. Not poison. I knew poison from academy coursework. This was something subtler. An ink solvent, used in archives to lift writing from parchment before restoration. Lucien looked at the decree. Then at Mara. Why would tea prepared for a classroom carry an archive solvent? Mara's lips parted. Before she could speak, someone screamed in the corridor. Lucien released her and moved first. I followed because I was apparently determined to die in the palace. In the corridor, Milo stood barefoot in his nightshirt, shaking as 2 guards tried to block him from the schoolroom. He clutched a page torn from a sketchbook. His eyes found mine. Finch, he said. Then he held up the drawing. It showed the throne room. It showed the decree. It showed Lucien standing beside a figure in tutor's blue. And behind them, drawn in jagged red lines, was a man holding a knife. Not at Lucien, at Milo. That afternoon, the palace became a cage pretending to be a home. Guards appeared at every staircase. Servants whispered behind doors. The Queen Regent canceled 3 council meetings and summoned the royal physician to examine Milo, although everyone knew his shaking had nothing to do with illness. Lucien was ordered to remain in his chambers. He ignored that order immediately. I was ordered to remain in mine. I obeyed for 11 minutes. Then I found Milo in the old music room, sitting under a harpsichord with his knees against his chest. No guards had noticed him leave. That frightened me more than the drawing. Milo, I said softly. He peeked out. Are you going to tell? I am a tutor. Telling is one of my natural instincts. His mouth trembled. I sat on the floor outside the harpsichord. But I prefer hearing the full lesson before I grade it. He hesitated. Then he crawled out and sat beside me. His eyes were red. He had ink on his fingers again. Children in royal houses were not supposed to look like children. They were dressed in miniature uniforms, taught to bow before they could write, and corrected until their grief learned manners. Milo looked like a boy who had spent too many years frightening adults by accident. "I did not mean to make everyone angry," he said. "I know. I just thought if I wrote it down, they would stop pretending." "Pretending what?" "That Lucien can choose someone else." I breathed carefully. "That is a serious thing to say." "I know. Do you understand what queen means?" He nodded. "It means crown consort. It means standing beside the king. It means everybody watches you, and some people smile while they hate you." That was painfully accurate. "Who taught you that?" "My mother." "Of course she had." "Milo, why did you call me that before I came here?" He picked at the cuff of his sleeve. "I saw you in the glass." "What glass?" "The mirror in the East Chapel. Sometimes when I touch it, it shows threads." The palace had many sacred objects, most of them useless and expensive, but the East Chapel mirror was older than the kingdom. I had seen it once during my arrival tour, covered in silk and guarded by 2 silent priests. "What kind of threads?" "People threads." His voice lowered. "Some are gray, some are red, some are black. Mother's is silver and wrapped around the throne. Harrow's is muddy. Caspian's is green and full of knots. And mine." He looked at me. "Gold." I forced a smile. "Gold can mean many things." "No," Milo said. "Not like yours." The music room door creaked. I stood so fast I almost hit my head on the harpsichord. Lucien stood in the doorway. His expression changed when he saw Milo. First anger, then relief, then the terrible effort of hiding both. "You little menace," he said. Milo ran to him. Lucien caught him with one arm and held him too tightly for someone pretending not to be scared. "I told you to stay with your guards," Lucien said. "I do not like them. You do not have to like people for them to keep you alive." "That is what Mother says about Lord Adrian." Lucien closed his eyes. I looked away. Not quickly enough. When Lucien opened his eyes, he saw my expression. A grim smile touched his mouth. "Careful, Master Albright. You are thinking loudly again." I said nothing. "You looked sympathetic. It was awful." Milo sniffed. "Finch feels sad when you talk about Adrian." My soul left my body. Lucien's gaze snapped to me. "Milo," I said. "What?" "He does. He is not a classroom assignment. We do not announce his observations. But it is true." Lucien's face remained unreadable. Mine burned. Milo looked between us. Then his eyes widened. "Oh," he said, "you did not know yet." I wanted the marble floor to swallow me. Lucien set Milo down. "Milo, go find Captain Soren." "But..." "Now." The boy groaned but obeyed, dragging his feet with royal disrespect. When he was gone, the music room held too much silence. Lucien shut the door. Not locked, only closed. That mattered. He always left exits available. "I apologize," I said immediately. "For what?" "For whatever emotion your brother thinks he saw. You apologize for feelings now. When they are inappropriate." His laugh was soft and humorless. "In this palace, inappropriate feelings are the only honest ones." I looked at the covered instruments, the faded curtains, anything except him. "Your chosen consort seems kind. Adrian is kind. Then he deserves better than being discussed like a burden." "Yes." That answer hurt more than I expected. Lucien stepped closer. I did not step back. "He deserves someone who can look at him without feeling trapped," Lucien said. "And you cannot." "No, because of me." The question escaped. before pride could stop it. Lucien went still. The air changed. Not dramatically. Not like stories claimed, with lightning and music and impossible heat. It changed like a candle flame when a door opens, somewhere unseen. His alpha scent deepened, then pulled back, restrained so quickly I knew it had cost him something. "You are under my protection," he said. "That is not an answer. It is the only one I can give without making your life worse. You think silence protects me. I think wanting you would make everyone in this palace sharpen their knives." My heart struck once. Hard. He regretted the words immediately. I saw it in the tension of his jaw, but he did not take them back. Perhaps princes did not know how, or perhaps he wanted me to know one true thing before the court buried us both in lies. The door opened. Captain Soren, head of palace security, entered with Milo at his side and a folded message in his hand. Soren was a beta in his 40s, scarred across one cheek, and one of the few people in the palace who looked at Lucien like he was not a rumor. "Your Highness," he said, "we found the archive steward." Lucien's expression hardened. "Alive." "Yes." The captain hesitated. "Barely. The archive steward had been attacked behind the chapel stairs. Not killed." That mattered. Dead men told no stories. Injured men could be blamed for them. By sunset, the official palace rumor said the steward had stolen solvent to alter coronation documents and then injured himself trying to flee. By supper, another rumor said he had been paid by an unnamed Omega tutor. By midnight, my name was written on 3 anonymous accusation slips and delivered to the Queen Regent's private secretary. I knew because one of them appeared under my door. Finch Albright has already begun manipulating the prince. The handwriting was elegant. The ink was green. Caspian. I stared at the note until the letters blurred. Then my door opened without a knock. Lucien entered. I grabbed the nearest object, which happened to be a grammar book. He looked at it. "If you throw that, aim for my left shoulder. The right is already bruised." "Do princes knock?" "Rarely." "Do future kings?" He paused, then stepped back into the hallway, closed the door, and knocked once. I should not have smiled. I did. He opened the door again. "Better." "No." "Honest." He held out a folded cloak. His cloak. Black wool, silver clasp, cedar and rain. "Put this on." My smile vanished. "Why?" "Because 3 council pages are lingering outside the servant's stair pretending not to wait for you." "Waiting to do what?" "To catch you frightened, alone, and scenting distressed enough to turn into tomorrow's scandal." My fingers tightened around the accusation note. "I will not hide under your cloak." "It is not hiding. It looks like claiming." He stopped. The word hung between us. Claiming was dangerous language for alphas and omegas. Too intimate for servants. Too political for royals. Too easy for the court to weaponize. Lucien lowered the cloak. "You are right." The apology was so immediate that my anger faltered. "I am not trying to mark you," he said. "I am trying to keep them from feeding on your fear." "I know. But you should not have to wear my scent to be safe." "No," I said. "I should not." We stood on opposite sides of my small room, both too aware of the bed behind me and the open door behind him. Then I picked up my own blue tutor's coat. It was plain, worn at the cuffs, and smelled like paper, ink, and me. "I will walk out wearing this," I said. "You may walk beside me, if you wish." His eyes changed. Just slightly. Respect, I thought, and something warmer beneath it. "As my tutor commands," he said. So we walked, not touching, not hiding, through the corridor where pages scattered like frightened birds, down the stairs where 2 council clerks pretended to discuss candle inventory, past the portrait gallery where Caspian stood with Lord Adrian. Adrian's gaze dropped to the space between Lucien and me. The space was proper. Wide enough for law, narrow enough for gossip. Caspian smiled. Master Albright, he said, you look tired. Court life is educational. And here I assumed you were doing the educating. Lucien's voice cut in. Veil. Caspian bowed. Your Highness, speak carefully. I always do. No, Lucien said. You speak prettily. That is different. Adrian looked away, not embarrassed. Pained. I noticed again that he did not seem cruel. That made everything harder. He had not chosen this humiliation either. He had been promised a crown, displayed as an answer to a problem, and placed beside an alpha who looked at him like a locked door. Lord Adrian, I said. He looked surprised that I addressed him. I bowed. I am sorry for the position this scandal has placed you in. Lucien went very still. Caspian's smile thinned. Adrian studied me for a long moment. Then he returned the bow. So am I, he said softly. Caspian's hand tightened on his sleeve. That was when I knew Adrian was not my enemy. Or at least, not willingly. The next 5 days unfolded like a lesson in how palaces kill without spilling blood. At breakfast, a noble lady asked loudly whether academy tutors were trained in scent manipulation. At luncheon, a visiting duke congratulated Lucien on finally taking his studies seriously, then asked whether I charged extra for private discipline. Lucien stood so quickly his chair struck the floor. I put one hand on the treaty book between us. Not on him. Never on him. Just close enough that he saw it. Your Highness, I said, we are not finished with the southern border clause. The Duke laughed. Lucien did not, but he sat. Slowly, violently, like obedience had teeth. Later, in the schoolroom, he slammed the same treaty book shut. You should not have to stop me from defending you. No. Then why did you? Because if you attacked a duke for insulting me, the court would say I controlled your temper. His hands flexed. I hate this. I know. You say that like it solves anything. I say it because no one else seems to let you hate things without turning them into politics. He looked at me then. Really looked. The bruise on his jaw had yellowed. There were ink stains on his fingers from actual studying. The reckless prince the kingdom mocked was learning 3 coronation speeches, 5 trade disputes, 12 diplomatic names, and the emotional control required to watch people insult me without burning the room down. You make it difficult, he said. What? Pretending I only want you because Milo saw a thread. I could not breathe. Lucien looked away first. As always, he gave me the mercy of not watching my face fall apart. That afternoon, Mara slipped a folded scrap into my grammar book. Not during tea. Not in a corridor. She managed it while 3 guards, 2 pages, and 1 suspicious priest stood within 10 steps of us. I did not read it until I was alone. Archive stairs. Midnight. Come without the prince if you want proof. That was exactly the sort of message intelligent people did not obey. So I obeyed it. I told myself it was not recklessness. It was investigation. There is a difference, although the injured often struggle to explain it. At midnight, the archive stairs were cold enough to numb my fingers. Mara waited in a servant's cloak. Without her cap, she looked older. More tired, more frightened. You should not have come, she said. You invited me. I hoped you would tell the prince. I considered it. Why didn't you? Because if this is a trap, I would rather know who said it. She stared at me. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed once. You are less soft than they think. I am a scholarship Omega from the Royal Academy. Softness was never in the budget. Her smile vanished. She pulled a small brass key from her sleeve. I did not alter the decree. I know. You do not. You flinched when the tea touched the ink. Guilty people watch the victim. Frightened people watch the evidence. Mara's mouth parted. Then she turned away. I was told to carry the tray. I was told it was harmless, a test of whether the ink had been tampered with. By whom? She hesitated. Caspian Vale. Of course. The name still struck like a slap. What does he want? To prove you forged the decree, to prove you used the child, to remove you before rehearsal. Why? Because Counselor Harrow promised him the position of royal historiographer after coronation if Lord Adrian becomes consort. And if I remain, if Prince Lucien refuses Adrian publicly, Harrow loses control of the first royal household under the new king. That was the shape of it. Not romance. Power. Lord Adrian was not merely a consort. He was Harrow's leash. Caspian was the buckle. And I, somehow, had become the knife placed near the strap. Mara unlocked a narrow archive door. Inside, shelves of ceremonial records climbed into darkness. She handed me a thin leather folder. The original decree draft. My hands trembled. The folder contained 4 versions. In the first, the consort line was blank. In the second, Adrian's name appeared in Harrow's hand. In the third, the Queen Regent signed. In the fourth, Lucien's signature was forged. I looked up. Mara whispered. The prince never agreed. A sound came from the stairs. Mara went white. We were not alone. She shoved the folder into my coat. Run! I did not run. I stepped behind the shelf and pulled her with me. 2 men entered the archive. One was a guard I did not know. The other was Caspian. Torchlight sharpened his profile. Find the folder, he said. The guard frowned. What if the maid talked? Then she becomes the thief. And Albright. Caspian's voice softened. Finch has always been easy to ruin. You only need to give important people the story they already want to believe. My fingers closed around the folder. Mara's breathing shook. Caspian moved closer. Too close. I could smell his expensive cologne. Green tea. Rosemary. Old resentment. He stopped beside our shelf. For a heartbeat, I thought he heard us. Then a voice spoke from the doorway. Looking for something. Lucien. Caspian turned. The guard dropped into a bow so fast his torch nearly went out. Lucien stood at the entrance in a black shirt and no crown, his hair damp as if he had come directly from the training yard. He looked calm. That was how I knew he was furious. Your Highness, Caspian said, I discovered suspicious movement near the archive and came to investigate. At midnight, as a loyal servant of the crown, Lucien's gaze moved to the guard. And you, the guard swallowed. I followed Master Vale's order. Master Vale does not outrank the rats in this archive. Caspian's face tightened. Lucien stepped inside. Leave. The guard did. Cowardice had excellent survival instincts. Caspian remained. Your Highness, you should consider how this looks. If Master Albright is found here, alone, with a maid and stolen documents. Lucien smiled. Not kindly. If Finch is found here, it will be because I found him. Caspian's eyes flicked toward our shelf. My pulse stopped. Lucien's did not. He moved first. Crossed the room. Stopped directly in front of the shelf where Mara and I hid. Then, without looking at us, he reached past the wood and tapped 2 fingers against the edge. A warning. Stay. My chest hurt. Caspian said, You know he is here. Lucien turned. I know many things. Do you know what people said about him at the academy? Yes. That answer surprised Caspian. Lucien tilted his head. I know he outscored you in 9 subjects. I know his scholarship disappeared after an accusation no one could substantiate. I know your father donated a new observatory 3 days later. Caspian's face drained of color. You investigated me. No, Lucien said. I investigated him. You were the stain on every page. The silence that followed felt like justice, but justice is dangerous when it arrives too early. Caspian bowed stiffly. You are making a mistake. Probably. For him, Lucien's voice lowered. Definitely. Caspian left. Only when his footsteps vanished did Lucien turn. Come out. I stepped from behind the shelf. Mara followed. Lucien looked at her. You will go to Captain Soren and tell him everything. She nodded quickly. Then he looked at me. I expected anger. I deserved it. Instead, he exhaled. You came without me. You would have stopped me. Yes. That is why I came without you. His jaw tightened. You understand that is not a reassuring argument. I found the original drafts. I see that. And proof that your signature was forged. I see that too. And proof that Adrian's selection was arranged through Harrow before you consented. I know. The words hit me strangely. You know. I suspected. You let them proceed. I had no proof. You had yourself. Lucien laughed once. It was ugly. Myself is the least useful evidence in this palace. The anger left me. Beneath his title, beneath his arrogance, beneath every reckless act, Lucien was trapped inside a crown that people had already fitted to someone else's hands. Lord Adrian beside him, Harrow behind him, the Queen Regent watching, the council waiting, his own consent treated as ceremonial. My voice softened. You should have told me. His eyes flashed. You were already in danger. I am more useful when informed. You are more breakable than you think. No, I said. I am more tired than you think. There is a difference. Lucien looked at me for a long moment. Then he did something that frightened me more than anger. He listened. The next day, my former academy record arrived at court. Not as a sealed file, as gossip. By breakfast, every noble had heard that I had once been accused of stealing examination notes. By noon, a rumor account pinned copies to the outer palace gates. By supper, Lord Adrian had been told that I was using forged documents to influence Lucien. And by evening, Caspian walked into the schoolroom, carrying the one thing I had never wanted to see again. My academy expulsion file. Lucien was not present. That was deliberate. The Queen Regent had summoned him to rehearse the coronation oath. Milo was in the chapel with priest. Captain Soren was questioning Mara. I was alone when Caspian placed the file on my desk. Still writing in blue ink, he said. Sentimental. I did not touch the file. How did you get that? I have friends. You have buyers. He smiled. Same thing, if you are clever. I kept my hands folded. What do you want? For you to leave? No. His smile vanished. You do not understand what is happening. I understand you are still trying to win an academy exam we finished 6 years ago. His eyes hardened. You ruined me. I almost laughed. I ruined you. Do you know what it was like, he said, being compared to you every day? Finch is brilliant. Finch is disciplined. Finch translates old law like breathing. Finch will be the youngest royal scholar in a century. So you destroyed my recommendation. I corrected a mistake. You framed me. I restored order. There it was. Not guilt. Not denial. Belief. The cruelest people often survive by convincing themselves cruelty is balance. Caspian opened the file. Once the Queen sees this, she will remove you quietly. If you resist, Harrow will demand a public inquiry. Your scent history, your suppressant records, every private meeting with the prince, all entered into court record. My stomach turned. Omegas survived by privacy. Take it away, and society called the exposure justice. You would do that, I said. I would prefer not to. You are lying. Yes, he said softly, but beautifully. I stood. My chair scraped the floor. I will not leave. His gaze flicked to my throat. You think he will protect you? No. That surprised him. I picked up the expulsion file. I think I will. Then I walked past him. He grabbed my wrist. Not hard. Hard enough. Before I could pull free, a sound came from the doorway. A low growl. Not theatrical. Not loud. The kind of sound that made every ancient part of the body remember alphas were once built to stand between blood and teeth. Lucien stood in the entrance. His eyes were fixed on Caspian's hand. "Release him." Caspian let go. Immediately, I hated that my wrist missed the pressure only because it had been replaced by fear. Lucien crossed the room. I stepped back before he reached me. He stopped at once. That mattered too. Caspian saw it. His eyes narrowed. Lucien held out his hand. Not to touch me. For the file. I gave it to him. He opened it. Read the first page. Then the second. Then the accusation summary that had hollowed out my future. His face revealed nothing. That was worse than pity. Pity would have been familiar. Finally, he looked at Caspian. "You brought this into my classroom." Caspian lifted his chin. "The court deserves to know who has access to you. The court deserves many things. Your opinion is not among them. This Omega has a history of academic theft. This Omega has a history of being framed by you." Caspian laughed. "You cannot prove that." "No," Lucien said. "But he can." I stared at him. Lucien placed the file on my desk. "You told me once that the Academy used 3-color examination seals until the winter of your final year." I remembered. Of course I remembered. I had complained about it during treaty lessons while correcting Lucien's dreadful handwriting. "They changed to red wax after the archive fire," I said. Lucien tapped the accusation page. "This report claims your notes were found under a blue seal 2 months after the change." My breath stopped. Caspian's face went still. Lucien looked at me. "You noticed every mistranslated clause I wrote," he said, "but you never reread the lie they used against you." I could not speak. For 6 years, I had carried shame so heavy I had mistaken it for evidence. I had never reread the file because I knew what it had done to me, because the wound had become a wall. Lucien turned back to Caspian. "You were careless." Caspian recovered quickly. "A clerical error." "Then you will not object to Captain Soren comparing this file to Academy wax records." Caspian's scent soured. "Fear. At last." Lucien smiled. "There you are." Caspian left without bowing. When he was gone, I sat down because my knees had become unreliable. Lucien remained standing across the desk. "Finch." I pressed my fingers against the file. I thought it was my fault. His expression shifted. "I know. I thought if I had been less proud, less visible, less certain I deserved things, maybe they would not have chosen me to ruin." Lucien came around the desk slowly, slow enough that I could tell him to stop. I did not. He crouched in front of me, not touching, never taking what grief had not offered. "Listen to me," he said. "People like Caspian do not destroy you because you take too much space. They destroy you because they cannot bear watching you earn it." The room blurred. I laughed once, badly. "You should not be good at comfort." "I am not. I am reading from your lesson plan." "I never wrote that." "You should have." I looked at him. He was close enough that I could see the small scar near his eyebrow. Close enough that his scent wrapped around the edges of my restraint. Close enough that the longing I had been denying stopped feeling like a secret and started feeling like a place I could fall. His gaze lowered to my wrist where Caspian had grabbed me. The skin was faintly red. His hand lifted. Paused. "May I?" 2 words. Simple. Devastating. I nodded. He touched my wrist with 2 fingers. Not possessive. Not claiming. Careful. The way someone might touch the edge of a torn page they wanted to preserve. My breath caught. His eyes flicked to mine. The air warmed. The suppressant patch beneath my collar prickled. Outside, bells began ringing for evening prayer. Inside, Lucien's thumb moved once over my pulse. Then, the door slammed open. Milo stood there, pale and shaking. "Do not go to the feast," he said. Lucien rose instantly. "What did you see?" Milo looked at me. Gold turning red. The Queen Regent ordered the feast to proceed. Of course she did. Canceling would show fear. Royal families would rather die elegantly than alarm the nobility. So that night, under chandeliers shaped like falling stars, I stood behind Lucien's chair as his tutor and watched the court pretend not to study my every breath. Lord Adrien sat to Lucien's right. Queen Regent Seraphine sat at the high table's center. Counselor Harrow sat close enough to guide every ceremonial conversation. Caspian stood behind Adrien, outwardly composed, though his scent had lost its polish. Mara was absent. Captain Soren watched from the shadowed archway. Milo was supposed to be in bed. He was not. I spotted him behind a tapestry 10 minutes after the first course. He put one finger to his lips. I nearly aged 10 years. Lucien followed my gaze. His expression did not change. Under the table, his hand tightened once on the stem of his glass. The feast began with toasts, then music. Then the presentation of symbolic gifts. The Northern Duchess gave Lucien a sword with a pearl hilt. The Eastern envoys gave Adrien a necklace of moon opals. Counselor Harrow gave the Queen Regent a ceremonial copy of the consort decree. The crisis object had returned. Fresh parchment, gold seal intact, Adrien's name clear and black. No child's ink, no cracked wax, no visible scandal. A perfect lie. Harrow lifted it high enough for the court to see. "In 12 days, he said, our prince will accept the crown with proper guidance, proper alliance, and proper devotion beside him." The applause was immediate. Lucien did not clap. Neither did I. Adrien looked at the decree like a man seeing his own cage polished for public admiration. Then Caspian moved. I noticed because Milo had taught me to see threads, even without magic. Caspian leaned toward a server carrying spiced wine. Whispered. The server changed direction. Toward me. The cup trembled slightly in his hand. Not from nerves. From something hidden beneath the tray. I stepped back. Too late. The server stumbled. Wine splashed across my chest and collar. Heat flashed over my skin. Not embarrassment. Not ordinary warmth. Something medicinal. Bitter almond. Sweet clove. A scent activator. The hall blurred. My suppressant patch burned beneath my collar. Someone gasped. Someone laughed. Then the first wave of my own Omega scent escaped into the feast. Soft. Bright. Terrified. The court went silent. Every alpha head turned, including Lucien's. For one horrible second, instinct moved through the room like a drawn blade. Then Lucien stood. His chair crashed backward. "Out," he said. No one moved. His voice dropped. "Everyone out." Harrow rose. "Your Highness, control yourself." Lucien turned his head slowly. The hall changed. Even I felt it through the fever rising under my skin. Not dominance. Not uncontrolled alpha command. Authority. The kind that did not ask permission from men who had borrowed power too long. "You drugged my tutor in my dining hall," Lucien said. "If you want to discuss control, choose your next sentence carefully." Harrow paled. Caspian whispered, "This is absurd." Milo burst from behind the tapestry and shouted, "He did it!" Every eye went to him. The little prince pointed at Caspian. He told the cup man. I saw the red thread in his hand. Caspian laughed sharply. A child's fantasy. I swayed. Lucien moved toward me. Then stopped. His hands curled into fists at his sides. He did not touch. Not in front of them. Not while my scent was compromised. not while the court waited to turn rescue into evidence. "Finch," he said, voice controlled with visible effort. "Can you walk?" I could. Probably. I took one step. My knees failed. Adrian moved first. That shocked everyone. He stood, removed the opal necklace from his own throat, and dropped it into his wineglass with a ringing crack. The sound cut through the hall. "Enough," Adrian said. His voice was not loud. It was noble enough to be heard. "I will not be used to excuse this," Harrow snapped. "Lord Adrian." Adrian looked at him. "I said enough." Lucien's eyes met his. Something passed between them. Not love. Recognition. Two people trapped in the same machine finally seeing the gears. Adrian walked to me, keeping his distance, and held out his ceremonial cloak. "For privacy," he said softly. I took it with shaking hands. The gesture saved me. Because if Lucien had given me his cloak, the court would have called it claiming. If Adrian gave me his, the court had to call it courtesy. Lucien looked at him. "Thank you." Adrian's smile was sad. "I am not your enemy." "I know. You should have said so sooner." Lucien flinched. He deserved that. Then Captain Soren seized the server. The man began crying before he reached the floor. Caspian stepped back. Harrow shouted for order. Milo ran to me. And I, burning with a false fever in a room full of eyes, realized the scandal had stopped being rumor. It had become war. Lucien did not carry me from the hall. He walked beside me while Adrian and Captain Soren cleared the path. He did not touch me until we reached the old royal library. And even then, he waited outside the door while the physician examined my patch, removed the ruined one, and gave me a stabilizing draft. The physician said I needed quiet, cool air and an alpha-free room. Then he looked at Lucien and nearly swallowed his tongue. Lucien stepped back at once. "I will leave." I should have let him. The draft made my limbs heavy. The activator still trembled under my skin. The library smelled of leather, dust, rain on stone, and Lucien standing just beyond the threshold like a starving man refusing food because the table had not invited him. "Stay," I said. The physician frowned. Lucien closed his eyes. "Finch, stay by the door." He opened his eyes. "Are you certain?" "Yes." The physician muttered about royal stubbornness and left Captain Soren outside. The door remained open. Lucien stood exactly where I told him. The old library was moonlit and enormous, with carved balconies, locked glass cabinets, and a hearth shaped like a lion's mouth. This was where kings had signed treaties, queens had hidden letters, and princes had learned how heavy history could be when written by winners. I sat on the long reading couch with Adrian's cloak around my shoulders. The false fever rolled through me in fading waves. Lucien's hand stayed behind his back. His knuckles were white. "You should go," I said. "You told me to stay." "I changed my mind." "Then I will go." He turned. Panic cut through the medicine. "Wait." He stopped. I hated myself for it. I hated Caspian more. "I do not know what is mine right now," I whispered. My scent, my pulse, my fear. I do not know what was forced and what was already there. Lucien turned back slowly. His face looked carved from restraint. "Then we decide nothing tonight." Tears burned my eyes. That simple. That simple. You are an alpha prince drugged court gossip expects to lose control. I am a man standing by a library door because you told me to. The laugh that left me broke halfway. Lucien's expression softened. "Tell me what you need." I looked at the shelves. At the moon. At the open door. At him. "Read to me." He blinked. "What?" "You are terrible at old law. Read badly. It will distract me." A real smile touched his mouth. Small. Devastating. "As my tutor commands." He took a book from the nearest shelf without looking and began to read. It was not law. It was a collection of ancient love poems. Of course it was. By the time he noticed, his voice had already wrapped itself around a line about a crownless king kneeling before a lantern. He stopped. I looked at him. Continue. That seems unwise. Most of tonight has been unwise. He swallowed, then continued. His voice was low, rough, and careful with every word. The fever eased. Or changed. Or perhaps I simply stopped pretending all warmth was danger. At some point I stood. The cloak slipped from my shoulder. Lucien's voice stopped. Finch. I walked toward him. One step, then another. He did not move. The open door was behind him. The whole palace beyond that. All the reasons this could destroy us. I stopped an arm's length away. Close enough to feel the heat of him. Far enough that choice still had room to breathe. You said wanting me would make everyone sharpen their knives, I said. His voice was barely sound. Yes. They already have. His eyes darkened. That is not permission. No, I said. It is context. His breath shook once. I lifted my hand. Not to touch him. To show him I was choosing the distance. I am not asking for a crown, I said. I know. I am not asking to replace Adrian. I know. I am not asking you to save me. His face changed. Pain, pride, something tender enough to hurt. What are you asking? For one honest answer. He looked at my mouth, then back to my eyes. Ask. If there were no counsel, no prophecy, no rehearsal, no forged decree, no little prince seeing gold threads, would you still look at me like this? The silence after that question felt like standing at the edge of a throne room with every candle blown out. Lucien lifted his hand, stopped before touching my face. Finch, he said, voice rough. I looked at you like this before I knew there was a prophecy. The air between us changed. The library door stood open. The moon touched the cracked gold seal of the old decree on the table behind us. His hand hovered near my cheek, close enough that my whole body understood the shape of the almost touch. For 1 second, the palace, the poison, the council, and every reason to step away disappeared. And this is where the YouTube safe version has to fade to black. The full uncut Royal Library continuation, including the adult scene placeholder, the private aftermath, and Lucien's alpha POV of what he almost lost control of but chose to handle with consent, restraint, and care, is available on Patreon. For now, we return to the next morning. The palace bells woke me at dawn. I was not in my room. I was in the old library, beneath a clean blanket, on the long reading couch, with 3 law books stacked beside me, and a glass of water on the floor within reach. The door was still open. Lucien sat in a chair across the room, awake, dressed, and looking like he had spent the night arguing with every instinct he owned. There were dark circles under his eyes. There was a book open in his lap. It was upside down. I stared at it. He followed my gaze, then closed the book with immense dignity. You saw nothing. I am a tutor. I see everything. Cruel profession. Necessary one. His smile faded as the memory of the feast returned. How do you feel? Angry, good, and embarrassed. Unnecessary, and grateful. His jaw tightened. That one I will accept. I sat up slowly. Adrian's cloak had been folded over the back of a chair. The royal decree lay on the library table, protected beneath a paperweight. Not the clean copy from the feast. Milo's defaced one. Lucien must have brought it. Or kept it. My name still covered Adrian's in bright blue ink. It looked less like vandalism now. More like a child trying to correct an adult lie. What happened after the haul? I asked. The server confessed to receiving payment from Caspian. That quickly. Soren can be persuasive. Did Caspian confess? No. Caspian vanished. I stood too fast. Lucien rose with me. The room tilted. He stopped himself from reaching out. I noticed. So did he. I steadied myself on the table. Vanished where? We are searching. Harrow. Claims outrage. Your mother. Silent. That seems worse. It usually is. I touched the decree. Adrian. Lucien looked toward the windows. He requested a private audience. With you. With you. That surprised me. Lord Adrian met me in the Queen's winter garden, where white roses bloomed under glass despite the cold. He came without Caspian, without Harrow, without attendants. For the first time since I had seen him, he looked young. Not childish, just human. 25, tired, and carrying a future he had not chosen. He bowed first. I returned it. His gaze moved to my collar, where a fresh suppressant patch lay hidden beneath linen. Are you recovered? Yes. I am sorry. You did not drug me. No, he said. But I stood beside people who wanted you removed and told myself dignity was the same thing as innocence. That was not the apology I expected. I said nothing. Adrian walked to the glass wall. Beyond it, palace guards crossed the frost-white lawns. When Harrow approached my family, he said Prince Lucien needed a stabilizing consort, someone calm, well-bred, politically useful. He said the prince would destroy himself without guidance. I thought of Lucien reading upside down across the library. He does need guidance, I said, but not ownership. Adrian smiled faintly. You do not flatter him. No. That is why he watches you like he is learning a language. My cheeks warmed. Adrian was kind enough to pretend not to notice. My family has served Harrow's faction for generations, he said. I thought marrying Lucien would protect them. From what? Debt, exposure, irrelevance. Choose whichever sounds least pathetic. Survival is not pathetic. No, he said, but it is expensive. He reached into his coat and removed a small folded page. I found this in Caspian's chamber before he fled. I took it. It was a copy of Milo's drawing. The throne room, the gold thread, the red knife, and a note in Caspian's handwriting. If the child speaks at rehearsal, remove him before oath. My blood went cold. They are going to take Milo, I said. Adrian nodded. I think so. Why bring this to me? Because Lucien will burn the kingdom down to protect him. Yes, and you will try to save the kingdom from the fire while saving Milo from the knife. I looked at him. He gave a tired smile. I may not be the prince's chosen consort, Master Albright, but I am not blind. Before I could answer, the garden door opened. Queen Regent Seraphine entered alone. Adrian bowed. I bowed deeper. The Queen looked at both of us. Lord Adrian, leave us. He hesitated, then obeyed. When he was gone, the winter garden became colder. The Queen Regent walked to the roses. She touched one white petal with a black-gloved finger. Do you hate me, Master Albright? The question was so direct I forgot diplomacy. I do not know you well enough. Her mouth curved slightly. A tutor's answer. An honest one. She looked at me then. Her eyes were the same silver as Lucien's, but where his burned, hers had frozen. I selected you because Milo saw you. Yes. Lucien told you. Yes. He should not have. He trusts me. That is what frightens me. I held her gaze. Because I am an Omega. Because he trusts almost no one. That answer disarmed me. The Queen looked back at the roses. When Lucien was 14, he challenged 3 older alphas for mocking a kitchen boy, broke 2 noses, nearly lost an eye. The court called him savage. His father laughed and called him strong. She paused. I called him reckless. I thought shame would teach control. Did it? I did not ask. Her face answered anyway. It taught him to hide tenderness under violence. she said quietly. That is one of my failures. I did not know what to do with a queen's confession, so I gave her silence. She seemed to value it. The council wants Adrian because Adrian comes with Harrow's votes. Harrow wants Adrian because Adrian will be grateful. Caspian wants you ruined because small men build thrones from old envy. And what do you want? She turned. For my son to survive the crown. I thought of Lucien's hand hovering near my cheek, of Milo's gold thread, of the forged decree, of Adrian's tired kindness. Survival is not the same as obedience, I said. No, the queen said, but disobedience has a cost. Then let him choose the cost. Her eyes narrowed. You speak boldly for someone who may lose everything. I lost everything once by staying silent. The queen studied me for a long moment. Then she did something I never expected. She removed a small key from a chain around her neck. Black iron, old, unadorned. The East Chapel mirror is locked after sunset, she said. If Milo runs there, Harrow's men will follow. She placed the key in my hand. Why give this to me? Because Milo trusts you. And you do not. No, she said, but I trust what my sons become around you. Then she left. I stood in the winter garden with the key in my palm and understood that the Queen Regent was not my ally. Not yet. But she had stopped being only my obstacle. The rehearsal was scheduled for 2 days later. Coronation rehearsals were not ceremonies, the palace steward explained. They were wars with choreography. Every bow had a witness. Every step had political meaning. Every hand placement was rehearsed so no one could mistake hesitation for insult. Lucien was expected to enter alone, receive the coronation blade, speak the oath, turn, and invite Lord Adrian to stand beside him as chosen consort. Adrian would place one hand over the clean royal decree. Lucien would place his hand above Adrian's. The Queen Regent would witness. The council would approve. The kingdom would understand that the reckless Alpha Prince had accepted guidance. It was elegant, efficient, suffocating. In the final lesson before rehearsal, Lucien could not sit still. He paced the classroom like a caged storm. You are wearing a path in royal property, I said. Good! The palace has too many floors! You cannot intimidate marble into giving answers. I can try. I set down my pen. Milo will be protected. Lucien stopped. You do not know that. Captain Soren doubled the chapel guard. Harrow owns half the guard. Adrian gave us Caspian's note. Harrow will deny it. Mara identified the server. She is a maid. He will call her compromised. The forged decree drafts. Useful if we survive long enough to present them. His voice cracked on survive. Only slightly, but I heard it. I stood. Lucien. He turned away. I was 8 when Milo was born, he said. My father gave him to me before my mother even held him. Said an heir should understand what he protects. My heart tightened. That is a terrible thing to put on a child. Yes. His laugh was empty. But I did protect him. From stares, dogs, tutors who thought fear was discipline, priests who wanted to test his visions, counselors who smiled too long. I protected him from everything except the one thing he needed most. What was that? Being believed. I crossed the room, stopped beside him. Not too close. Enough. He is still here, I said. You can believe him now. What if believing him puts you in danger? I was in danger before anyone believed anything. He looked at me. That old ache passed between us. The almost touch from the library. The question with no safe answer. The knowledge that wanting each other had stopped being a secret and become a decision waiting for courage. I found something, I said. Lucien's expression sharpened. I took the iron key from my pocket. His face changed immediately. Where did you get that? Your mother. My mother gave you the chapel key. Yes. Voluntarily. Yes. He stared, then muttered, "Either she trusts you or the world is ending." Possibly both. The corner of his mouth moved. Then he reached into his coat and removed the cracked royal decree. "You kept it again," I said. "It keeps being relevant. It is evidence. It is also the only official document in this palace that tells the truth. My name in Milo's blue ink seemed almost alive between us." I touched the edge. "Lucien. Yes. At rehearsal. Do not act because of this." His eyes lifted. "Because of the decree. Because of Milo's vision. Because of Harrow. Because of Caspian. Because you are angry. Because the court pushed too hard." "Then why should I act?" I forced myself to hold his gaze. "Because when all of this is over, you will still have to live with the choice." He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "Will you?" "Will I what?" "Live with it." My throat tightened. The classroom door opened before I could answer. Milo ran in. His hair was a mess. His face was white. "They are going to use the bell passage," he said, "not the chapel stairs." Lucien reached him first. "Who?" The muddy thread. "Harrow." Milo grabbed my sleeve. "And the green knots." "Caspian." The bell passage was an old servant's route behind the chapel wall. It connected the rehearsal hall to the east tower, where the coronation bells hung. If someone took Milo through that passage during rehearsal, they could remove him from the hall without crossing any guarded door. "How long?" Lucien asked. Milo squeezed his eyes shut. "When everyone kneels. During the oath." The only moment when every head would be bowed. Lucien looked at me, then at the decree, then at the chapel key. For once, the reckless prince did not move first. He waited. Because this was no longer only about his rage. It was about Milo's fear, Adrian's warning, Mara's confession, the Queen's key, my choice, his choice. I said, "We let them try." Lucien's eyes widened. "No. We cannot expose a kidnapping before it starts without proof. No. Lucien. No." His voice hit the walls. Milo flinched. Lucien saw it and hated himself instantly. I touched Milo's shoulder. Not Lucien. The message reached him anyway. He took one breath, then another. "What is your plan?" he said, each word forced through clenched teeth. "We move Milo before the oath. They will know." "No," I said. "We give them a Milo to take." Milo blinked. "I do not like this plan." "You will be safe with your mother." "I like it more." Lucien stared at me. "What exactly are we giving them?" I looked toward the wardrobe where ceremonial rehearsal cloaks hung for child attendance. An empty cloak, a shadow in the bell passage, and a tutor who knows how academy thieves think. The rehearsal hall was filled before noon. Not as full as a coronation would be, but full enough to destroy a life. Rows of nobles in velvet and jewels, counselors in black, priests in white, guards at every arch, servants pretending not to listen. At the far end, the rehearsal throne stood beneath a canopy of gold cloth. No crown yet, only the coronation blade, the oath book, and the clean royal decree. Adrian's name shone on the parchment. Lord Adrian stood beside the Queen Regent, dressed in white again. This time, his expression was calm. Too calm. He had chosen a side. I hoped he survived it. Caspian stood near the east arch. I saw him before he saw me. He looked perfect. That meant he was desperate. Counselor Harrow stood near the oath book, speaking with a priest. Captain Soren stood at the west door. Mara, dressed again as a maid, carried a tray of candles with hands that did not shake. And Milo was nowhere to be seen. Good. The little prince was in the Queen Regent's private chapel, guarded by 2 betas loyal to Soren, and 1 terrifying elderly nurse who had raised both princes and reportedly once slapped the late king for tracking mud across a nursery. The figure hidden near the bell passage wore Milo's ceremonial cloak. It was stuffed with folded linen and held upright by a narrow frame from the costume room. In dim light, from behind, it looked enough like a small royal child. At least, it would look enough like one to men moving quickly during a kneeling oath. I stood in my proper place behind the tutor's lectern. Not important, not central, visible enough for judgment, invisible enough for danger. Then the doors opened. Lucien entered. The hall changed. I had seen him bruised, angry, bored, tired, and dangerous. I had seen him reading love poems by moonlight and pretending not to care that his book was upside down. I had not seen him like this. He wore black coronation rehearsal armor, not for battle, but for ceremony. Silver embroidery marked the line of his shoulders. A dark cloak fell behind him, like a piece of night cut into royal shape. He looked every inch the alpha prince they feared. Every inch the king they wanted to control. His gaze moved across the hall once. It stopped on me, only for a breath, then moved on. Still, my pulse hurt it like a hand against a locked door. The rehearsal began. The steward called the order. The priest lifted the oath book. Lucien stepped onto the dais. Harrow smiled. Caspian watched the east arch. The queen regent watched her son. Adrian watched the decree. I watched everyone. Prince Lucien Solmer, the priest said, heir of the moon crown, blood of the northern line, protector of the 5 provinces, kneel and speak the oath. Lucien knelt. The whole hall followed. Velvet rustled. Jewels clicked. Heads bowed. And in that exact moment, 2 shadows moved near the bell passage. Caspian and the unknown guard from the archive. They reached for the child-sized cloak. I moved too, not toward them. Toward the candle tray Mara had placed beside the east arch. One candle had a blue ribbon tied around its stem. Mara's signal. I tipped it. Flame touched the prepared line of flash powder Soren had hidden beneath the arch. Light burst. Not fire. Not enough to hurt. Enough to blind. Enough to make every kneeling noble scream. The guard grabbed the empty cloak. Caspian hissed, "Move." Captain Soren stepped from the bell passage behind them. "So eager," he said. The guard dropped the cloak. It collapsed into linen and wood. The hall erupted. Caspian turned to flee. Adrian blocked him. In white silk, with no weapon, Lord Adrian Vere stepped into Caspian's path and said, "No." Caspian shoved him. Adrian hit the wall. Lucien rose. The oath book fell from the priest's hands. Harrow shouted, "This is treason!" Lucien looked at him. "Yes," he said, "it is." Captain Soren seized the guard. Mara pointed at Caspian. "That is the man who ordered the solvent." Caspian snarled, "Liar." Adrian, still on one knee, lifted something from the floor. A green signet button torn from Caspian's sleeve. "And the server," Adrian said. "And the feast." Caspian's perfect face cracked. "This is ridiculous. You believe a maid, a child's drawing, and a discarded button." "No," I said. Every head turned. My voice should have failed. It did not. I walked to the dais carrying the leather folder from the archive. "I believe drafts," I said. "Wax records, ink reactions, forged signatures, a kidnapped archive steward, a drugged feast cup, an academy file with the wrong seal, and a man so frightened of coming second that he built a life out of stolen first places." Caspian looked at me with hatred. Pure now. No polish. No perfume. No academy smile. "You think he will make you queen," he spat. "You think a prince can choose some ruined Omega tutor because a child scribbled on parchment." I felt the strike. Of course I did. Some wounds remain doors no matter how carefully you lock them. But this time, I did not stand alone in front of the accusation. Adrian stood. Mara stood. Soren stood. The Queen Regent stood. and Lucien stepped down from the dais. Not in front of me. Beside me. Caspian saw it. So did everyone else. Lucien's voice carried through the hall. Finch Albright was accused at the academy because you forged a file. He was accused here because you forged my consent. You have an unfortunate habit of mistaking stolen ink for truth. Caspian shook his head. Harrow promised. The words escaped before he could stop them. The hall went silent. Harrow's face turned gray. Lucien looked at him. There you are. Harrow tried to speak. The Queen Regent moved first. Counselor Harrow, she said, you are relieved of your ceremonial authority pending inquiry. You cannot do that. Her smile was winter. I have ruled this kingdom for 12 years while men told me what I could not do. You should have paid more attention. Guards surrounded Harrow. Caspian began to laugh. It was not sane. Not entirely. You still cannot change the decree, he said. The council signed. The Queen signed. The consort line is sealed. If he refuses Adrian now, he enters coronation without approval. The clean royal decree rested on the stand beside the throne. Gold seal intact. Adrian's name written with perfect official cruelty. The crisis object had returned for the third time. Trigger. Proof. Choice. Lucien walked to it. The hall watched him. Adrian's face softened with something like grief and relief together. The Queen Regent did not move. I realized she was holding her breath. Lucien picked up the decree. For a moment I thought he would tear it. He did not. He carried it to Adrian. Lord Adrian Vere, he said, formal enough to cut. You were offered a crown as compensation for a cage. I am sorry. Adrian bowed his head. I accept your apology. You deserved honesty. Yes, Adrian said. I did. Lucien turned to the court. I refuse this chosen consort. The hall exploded. Voices rose. A priest dropped his prayer chain. Harrow shouted from between guards. The Queen Regent closed her eyes. Lucien did not raise his voice. He did not need to. I refuse a forged consent. I refuse a political leash. I refuse a crown that begins by lying to the person expected to stand beside me. Then he looked at me. The noise vanished in my ears. Only him. Only the decree in his hand. Only my name still faintly visible in memory beneath Milo's blue ink, even though this copy was clean. Finch Albright, Lucien said. My body forgot how to move. The hall remembered how to stare. He descended the dais one step, then another. He stopped before me. Not too close. Never taking the last distance. Not in public. Not without permission. His voice softened, but the hall heard every word. You told me not to act because I was angry, he said. You told me not to act because of Milo's vision, or Harrow's crime, or the court's pressure. My throat tightened. Yes. I am acting because when this is over, I will still have to live with the choice. He held out the decree. Not his hand. The decree. A symbol stripped of obedience. A lie waiting to be rewritten. I will not command you to stand beside me, he said. I will not ask you to be a shield, a scandal, a replacement, or a reward. But if you choose it, Finch, stand beside me now. The room tilted. Caspian stared like he had watched the sun kneel. Adrian smiled sadly. Mara pressed both hands to her mouth. Captain Soren looked at the ceiling as if asking the late king for patience. The Queen Regent's expression broke for one small second. And from the side chapel door, Milo appeared. He must have escaped the terrifying nurse. Of course he had. He looked at me, then at Lucien, then at the decree. His eyes filled with gold-bright certainty. I told you, he whispered. My whole life had been people deciding where I belonged. The Academy decided I belonged beneath suspicion. Caspian decided I belonged in second place. The court decided I belonged in shame. Harrow decided I belonged outside the royal household. Even Milo's vision tried to name a future before I had chosen it. So I looked at Lucien's outstretched decree, then at the prince himself. "Is this because I am your future?" I asked, "or because I am your choice?" Lucien's answer came without hesitation. "You are not mine because the future saw you," he said. "You are the future I want, because you are the first person who made me choose honestly." The hall went silent. Not politically, not ceremonially, humanly. I stepped forward. One step, then another. I did not take his hand. Not yet. I placed my palm over the broken line of Adrian's name on the decree. Lucien placed his hand beside mine. Not above, beside. The difference shook the room harder than a kiss. The Queen Regent lifted her chin. "Let the record show," she said, voice carrying through the stunned hall, "that Prince Lucien Solmir has refused a forged consort decree and requested a voluntary witness beside him for the continuation of rehearsal." Harrow shouted, "That is not law." The Queen looked at him. "No," she said, "it is history beginning before law catches up." Milo laughed, a bright, startled sound. Then the great coronation bells rang once overhead. No one had ordered them. No priest had pulled the rope. The sound rolled through the palace like thunder waking under stone. Lucien looked at me. For the first time since I had met him, the reckless prince looked afraid of hope. "Finch," he said quietly. I wanted to answer. I wanted to ask about the chapel mirror, about the prophecy his mother still had not told us, about the real reason Milo had seen me weeks before I arrived, about what would happen tonight when the court doors closed and the palace stopped pretending this was only politics. But Milo suddenly stopped laughing. His gaze lifted above us, toward the crown canopy, toward something none of us could see. His face went pale. "The gold thread changed," he whispered. Lucien turned. "What does that mean?" Milo looked at the decree under our hands, then at me, then at his brother. "It means the first future survived," he said. "Now the hidden one starts." Lucien's hand tensed beside mine. The bells rang again, and somewhere beyond the rehearsal hall, deep in the East Chapel, glass cracked. That is where the YouTube safe version ends. If you want the real ending, the uncut continuation after the rehearsal, the Royal Library scene YouTube could not fully include, Lucien's private alpha POV, the prophecy truth, the uncut coronation night, the full mate bond aftermath, and the bonus palace epilogue. They are available now on Patreon. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Because I don't make any money from YouTube, I depend entirely on paid Patreon subscriptions to keep this channel alive and continue creating content for you. I will keep posting here on YouTube, but if you want to support my work, please visit patreon.com/FelixBL. The link is the very first one in the description below. Before you go, tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from and share your thoughts on the story.